Hello, this is Wendy Tyra. I'm a training consultant at Wolters Kluwer, and today I'm going to share with you an exciting enhancement to ICAM. The Remediation Dashboard allows you to evaluate your approved controls or domains from a central location. With this enhancement, you can also associate multiple controls to one corrective action plan. Previously, if you determined a policy needed to be created after conducting an assessment, and that policy addressed a number of deficient controls, you had to create a corrective action plan for each control affected. It was a 1-to-1 ratio. Now you can have as many controls associated with one corrective action plan as you need. As a side note, throughout this presentation, I will refer to domains and controls as controls for simplicity's sake. During today's session, I will show you the new dashboard for the remediation process. The initial process of answering and approving controls hasn't changed. You use the remediation dashboard after you've approved the controls in your assessment. From here you can accept, defer, or remediate the controls. The risk acceptance button within the controls will be replaced by the ability to accept the control on the remediation dashboard. You now have the ability to defer a control if you don't want to accept the risk. You now have the ability to defer a control if you don't want to accept the risk, but aren't ready to put a corrective action plan into place. The corrective action plan workflow has been altered to enable the associating of multiple controls to a corrective action plan. Tasks are the addition to this workflow. Tasks make up a corrective action plan. They're created outside of the corrective action plan and then associated with it. When you choose to remediate a control, you associate the control to a task and then create individual milestones to complete the task. Much like you do today, except now you can associate multiple controls to a task. We'll get to some examples in a minute. When you create a corrective action plan, it will include one or more tasks. Remember, a task is the way you associate the controls. Multiple tasks can be associated with a corrective action plan, but a single task can only be associated with one corrective action plan. You will work through the corrective action plan, and just as you do now, you'll submit the corrective action plan for approval and have it either approved or rejected based on whether the approver feels the corrective action plan was executed properly. Now to take you through what the experience will be like on the site. The Remediation Dashboard will be an option off the menu on the left. When you select the Evaluate Risks off the menu, you can see how many controls have been approved up in the top left-hand corner, but haven't started the remediation process. These would be your completed controls on the User and Approver's dashboard. In the middle box, you see how many tasks have been created but haven't been associated with a corrective action plan. And on the right, you'll see how many corrective action plans are currently being worked on. In the pie chart, you can visually see the risk rating of all the controls that have been approved but haven't started the remediation process. This will help you to prioritize which controls to focus on. You can click on an area within the pie chart and see the controls below for a specific risk rating. In the middle, you see a breakdown of the controls ready for remediation, whether they're domains or controls. The bar chart indicates how long a control has been waiting to start the remediation process. In this example, there are a couple that were recently approved, but there are more that were approved more than 3 months ago and haven't been addressed yet. Now below the graphical charts on the remediation dashboard, the individual controls appear and can be filtered by type, action, assessment state, and assessment. Access the original control by selecting the name of the control. From this screen, you can accept, defer, or remediate the control. Accept allows you to document why you're accepting the control. Defer allows you to push the remediation process into the future. This could be done because there isn't enough money in the budget this year, so you want to defer it to closer to the start of your fiscal year. It'll be removed from the dashboard until the defer date is reached. Selecting Remediate immediately moves it to the Evaluate. Selecting Remediate immediately removes it from the Evaluate Risk screen and moves it to the Create and Manage Tasks screen. From the controls requiring tasks screen, you'll find the controls you selected to remediate. From the Create and Manage Tasks screen, tasks can be created and milestones will document the individual steps of the task. A control can be sent back to the Evaluate Risk screen through the Reevaluate button over on the right. From there, it can be accepted or deferred, or it can be linked to a task through the Associate button. A control can be sent back to the Evaluate Risk screen through the Reevaluate button. A control can be sent back to the Evaluate Risk screen through the Reevaluate button to either be accepted or deferred, or it can be linked to a task through the Associate button over on the right. Remember, you can have multiple controls associated with a task. For example, if you assessed some of your Tier 1 applications and determined that your access control policy needed to be updated, you could have multiple applications that need to have the same policy updated. You would associate all of the controls into the same task. You'd create milestones. Examples of milestones for this policy might be to review the policy, update the policy, and educate your employees on the policy. Once the task is complete, you can add it to the corrective action plan, where that may include the updating of multiple policies. Tasks can be created or edited from tasks in draft form view. Tasks are associated with one or more controls. From this screen, you can see the name of the task, the number of milestones included in the task, the cost, if known, to complete this milestone, the number of controls associated, the priority of the task, and the asset or assets it covers. Select Edit to add an existing task, or Create Task to start a new task. This task is an example of updating the Information Security Management Program. The middle section lists the controls covered by the task, where you can also select additional controls to add to the task. The middle section lists the controls covered by the task. You can also select additional controls to add to the task with the Assign Items button. The individual milestones are listed below. You will also indicate how the corrective action plan will positively or negatively affect the compliance score and rating in the middle area. The delta between the initial and updated scores are reflected here too. You will also indicate how the corrective action plan will positively or negatively affect the compliance score and risk rating in the center section. The delta between the initial and updated scores are reflected here too. The Corrective Action Plan dashboard is similar to the Evaluate, Create, and Manage Task dashboards. The charts are similar, but this data reflects details specific to the Corrective Action Plans. On the lower part of the Corrective Action Plan dashboard, you're presented with corrective action plans being worked on, action plans that are still being created, and tasks awaiting to be assigned to corrective action plans. You can view active and draft corrective action plans and view or assign any unassigned tasks. Within the corrective action plan, you can work on the task or tasks that make up the corrective action plan to document the milestones and the progress towards remediation that you're making. When all the milestones are complete, you can submit the CAP for approval, and like today, the approver will either approve it or reject it. This concludes the Remediation Dashboard overview. Thank you and have a good day.